All right, so this month I'm going to show this full painting of this dead bird. You can call it Nature Morte. That I got. I got a call from a student when I was teaching at Lyme, actually a text, and she said, "I found this dead bird," and I thought, "Wow, how the heck did you know that I would want to paint a dead bird?" Because I've painted them in the past. I probably have told her, and she sent me a photo. It was a beautiful photo, and I thought, why not? When something like this happens, for me, it's always the opportunity to jump right in with my heart. And I say that because, the bird had died obviously that day, and now it was on the side of the road, and someone had picked it up, and therefore I had to go and get it. And first thing that went in my mind was, what do I have to do tonight? And that's where I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to jump right in. So I ended up going to her house. I got the bird, and I basically went home, and I started to think of what I was going to do with the bird. And I thought I could either do a study, which I have done of birds in the past. This is I found out it's a warbler, which is a type of songbird, and I was like, I'm just going to jump in. So that night, I think I studied it, which I recommend all of you do. I looked at it and I started to think about what I would place, what would I place it in around it, and I thought just a dead bird by itself may be a little, I don't know, could be just a study, and that's totally fine. I've done that in the past. I've done it with cardinals. I've found a blue jay. There's also a couple other, maybe is it titmouse? I've done a bunch of them, but this bird was beautiful, and the belly had a beautiful color, the yellow. So one of the things I did was to look in and say where in this painting would give me, some of the beauty of it. I've done them on their back. I've done them, when they're dead. What do you want to do? And to me, this is an ode to nature. So in service of it, I thought, let's bring up the yellow belly of it and the beautiful grays. All right, so that's the backstory of it. What I'm doing here is I'm just jumping right in, and I'm using the Scarlet brush set that I worked with Trekell, and I'm just drawing it. I mean, that is just me jumping right in and trusting my drawing abilities. The burnt umber that I'm trying here, that's what that is that I'm drawing with. It's almost like just a grisaille. It's actually an alkyd color. I've been trying to work with alkyds briefly with in underpaintings, just to see if, I don't know, maybe you get a quick grisaille, it'll dry a little faster. Sometimes they push a little bit more, so they've got like a little bit of oil, or they're alkyd based, so they're going to dry faster, and I may be able to kind of push it into the surface and get a little bit more with it. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm basically taking burnt umber and trying to get some of the contrast that you'd see. And that's really what this is so far. This is really just kind of an abbreviated, grisaille. So in order to kind of jump right in, because, once you get, this is why I always recommend everyone get so good at drawing that you can just jump in and paint anything at any time. A sunset, whatever it is, right? And there I am fixing the drawing because the tail was a little bit on the short side. Now I would say this is in the spirit of, even someone like Chardin. Chardin was inspirational to Emil Karlsson. There was a bunch of dead animals and birds and stuff like that were painted by many artists in the past. William Merritt Chase did them. So it's almost like it's a long lineage of artists that have done dead birds, and Nature Morte is a concept that went all the way back to the Vanitas. Vanitas, or even Still Life, which is dead nature in Dutch, is an ode to nature. So it's almost like placing it into the context of something big and historical. So at this time, I was like, such a beautiful thing, and not letting go of what comes out of it, I should say. with that being said, when I go to my gallery or I show my galleries what I'm doing, it's a tough sell. I remember I've had many discussions with them on selling dead birds. But dead birds, or I did dead ducks one time. And I would have continued down that manner. See, that's yellow ochre in the Griffin Alcids. I would have continued doing them had they been received, because to me there's always a duality between everything that I'm doing. I wanna sell work. I make a living as a professional artist. I don't just shoot videos and teach it. If anything, the top rung for me is making paintings as a living professional artist. And therefore, I have to be aware of what will and will not sell. More of that, if I choose to do it, then I'm doing it for me. And there may not be a market, or any of my galleries will want it. I've diversified into 4 galleries now, and therefore I want to give them enough product in which they can try to sell it. So, with that being said, this is a painting I did for me. I didn't particularly care. I saw beauty in nature, and the rational side of me that was like, well, don't do anything, that wouldn't sell in a gallery. I was like, doesn't matter to me. This is beautiful. I want to take the opportunity to study it. So here I am going in and mixing a gray. Oftentimes I'm asked, like, why wouldn't you get a neutral gray number 5, or some kind of Munsell or Portland gray or something like that? And the more I paint, and the more I'd say as I mature as an artist, the less I want of things to be perfect. You could say it's wabi-sabi. I don't know. It's this sense that there's a human element to what I'm doing, and the bias, or unconscious bias, the inability to get perfection in my work is often celebrated. I can get it pretty damn close. I can get a gray. I can mix grays. I usually try to find somewhat of a gray. But because human perception can't see what that is, I allow just whatever little amount of movement there is in there. So what I'm saying is that I'm using burnt umber, and I think it's Prussian blue to get this. I think I also have ivory black on there. Gray, and therefore I'm going to use that, and it's going to have a bit of a bias to it. You can see I also pulled yellow ochre down into it, and the yellow ochre can pull it warm. And the way in which I try to think of these things is that I kind of have a warm and a cool. If I want to pull it warm, I could add a touch of yellow ochre to the mixture, and it's the same way that I think of titanium white. You can add titanium white to a tiny amount of yellow ochre to get a warm white. That's really what a lot of manufacturers do. So for me, that's like why I find interest in even studying pigments. When I find warm white from a manufacturer, I'm like, what makes a warm white? Like, most whites truly do have a warmth to them, like titanium. If you were to measure it, it's a low chroma yellow or yellow green, depending on which brand and whose notations you're looking at. But I want to be able to kind of move it, modulate the warm cool, and therefore the yellow ochre to me moves it lighter and warmer. And then if I want a darker, low chroma red, that's burnt umber that you could see up there. And I'm modulating between those two. So this is what you're getting right now, is kind of getting the yellow of the bird in there, and that's burnt umber, to go darker. But I'm now tapping it into some of the wet pieces that are already there. Now, I'm kind of modeling as I'm going, and you can see I'm putting, similar to, like, I would probably say this is a tiling technique, even though if it's not working for me, I would move away from it. Tiling just means that I'm putting a little facet of a plane down to average the space. And I'm thinking, like, is it moving towards the light or away from the light? But at the same time, I don't want to just... I want to be on the form, but I'm doing it rather fast. And therefore, I'm kind of moving quick to get it down. And one of the things I used to do when I was at Water Street was to take and see what I can get in a short amount of time. Like, what does tiling mean to me in an abbreviated way? Because one of the things I didn't want was to lock into this very slow method. Like, the expression to me is in the deep understanding, you build it so it becomes intuitive, and then you can free yourself a little bit with the ideas where you can play with them. You can go faster, you can go slower. You still have that kind of governing you to a degree, but it doesn't, if you go too slow, then you're governed by it. But if you go a little bit too fast, you're abbreviating it because it's harder to do. And therefore, I'm moving right now. I'm trying to get the form based off the belly. Again, to me, that was the first read of the bird. I'm painting the bird at the beginning because if anything's going to go in this, the bottle is the bottle. The bird could smell. And I've painted things recently, actually. Painted some fish.